Commander Jake Martinez stood at the wide window of his ship's control room, watching orange flames dance across the dark surface of New Austin Colony. The fires had been burning for 3 days now, and the smoke still rose into the purple alien sky. 12,000 people had lived down there just a week ago. "Sir, we're getting the final count from the rescue teams," Captain Lisa Brown said as she walked up behind him. Her voice was tired and rough from 3 days of giving orders and watching good people die. 12,047 confirmed dead. 812 survivors found in the underground shelters. Jake nodded but didn't turn around. He had seen this same scene 17 times in the past 3 years. 17 human colonies attacked by the Hegemony Coalition. 17 times he had arrived too late to do anything but count the bodies and pick up the pieces. "The Krek ships left 6 hours ago," Lisa continued. They jumped to hyperspace before we could catch them. Same as always. Same as always," Jake repeated. The Krek's empire and their allies in the Veil Swarm had perfected this strategy. Hit fast, kill as many humans as possible, then run away before Earth's fleets could respond. They knew that human ships would come to help the survivors. Instead of chasing the attackers, a young officer approached them with a datapad in his hands. "Commander Martinez, we just received another message from Earth Command to return to base immediately for another peace conference." Jake finally turned away from the window. "Another peace conference. How many does that make now?" "This will be number 18, sir," the officer replied. "The diplomatic corps believes the Hegemony Coalition is ready to negotiate in good faith." This time, Lisa made a sound that was almost a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Good faith. They attacked 3 colonies while we were at the last peace conference. They used the ceasefire to move their fleets into better positions. Jake took the datapad and read the message. It's the same polite words, the same careful language about finding peaceful solutions and avoiding unnecessary conflict. The politicians back on Earth still believed they could talk their way out of this war. "Sir?" another voice called from across the control room. It was Dr. Karen White, the fleet specialist in alien biology and culture. She was holding her own datapad and looking worried. "I've been analyzing the communications we intercepted from the Krek ships. I think you need to see this." Jake walked over to her station, with Lisa following close behind. Karen's screens showed patterns of alien text and audio recordings that had been translated into English. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Jake asked. "These are conversations between Krek's ship commanders during the attack," Karen explained. "They're not just reporting military information. Listen to this part." She pressed a button and alien voices filled the air, followed by the computer's translation. "The humans send their largest ships to rescue their weak ones again. Their warriors spend time saving the injured instead of pursuing us. What kind of species fights a war this way?" Another voice responded. "A weak species, a species that fears real battle. Oh, if they had the strength to truly fight, they would have used it by now. Instead, they talk and send their healers." Karen stopped the recording. "There's more like this throughout their communications, Commander. They don't think we're being merciful or diplomatic. They think we're weak. They think we can't fight." Jake stared at the screen. "Can't fight?" "They've studied our responses to their attacks," Karen continued. "Every time they hit a colony, we send hospital ships and rescue teams. We've never sent a full battle fleet to hunt them down. We've never retaliated against their worlds the way they attack ours. From their perspective, this looks like the behavior of a species that doesn't know how to wage war." Lisa was reading over Karen's shoulder now. "They think we're just not capable of real violence. That's why they keep escalating. They're testing us, seeing how far they can push before we break." "But we won't break," Jake said quietly. "We'll just keep sending rescue ships and asking for peace conferences." Admiral Peter Collins' voice suddenly came through the communication system. All senior officers report to the briefing room immediately. We have new orders from Earth Command. 10 minutes later, Jake sat in the briefing room with his senior staff, watching Admiral Collins pace back and forth in front of a large display. Scream Collins was a veteran of the border wars, one of the few humans who had seen real combat before the Hegemony Coalition started their attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, Collins began, I have just received word that the Coalition has rejected our latest peace proposal. Not only have they rejected it, but they have announced their intention to begin attacking our core worlds. They plan to hit New California, Terra Nova, and possibly Earth itself. The room fell silent. Attacking the outer colonies was one thing, but hitting the core worlds meant total war. There's more, Collins continued. Our intelligence networks have intercepted Coalition battle plans. They're not planning to capture these worlds or demand surrender. They plan to kill every human they find, just like they did here at New Austin. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Admiral, what are our orders? Collins looked around the room at each officer. Earth Command is finally ready to admit that diplomacy has failed. The Coalition has made it clear that they view our restraint as weakness and our mercy as invitation for more attacks. President Hayes has authorized the activation of Protocol 7. Several officers exchanged glances. Protocol 7 was something they had all heard about but never seen implemented. It was Earth's contingency plan for total warfare, the kind of fighting that humanity had hoped never to use again. Sir, Lisa asked, does this mean we're finally going to show them what human ships can really do? Admiral Collins smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Captain Brown, for 3 years we have been fighting with one hand tied behind our backs. We have been using our exploration ships and our rescue vessels to fight their warships. We've been following rules of engagement that prioritize saving lives over winning battles. He pressed a button and the display screen showed a star map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of Coalition attacks, while blue dots showed human fleet positions. The Coalition thinks they know what human warfare looks like, Collins continued. They think they have seen our best ships and our strongest weapons. They have made the mistake of assuming that our mercy means we lack the ability to be merciless. Jake leaned forward in his chair. What exactly are you saying, Admiral? Collins looked directly at him. I'm saying that Earth's age of courtesy is about to end, Commander. The Coalition wanted to see what humans are really like when we stop playing by the rules. They're about to find out. The briefing room was completely quiet now. Every officer. We understood what was happening. For 3 years, they had watched colonies burn while politicians talked about peace. They had followed orders to rescue survivors instead of hunting killers. They had been the galaxy's peacekeepers while the Coalition treated them like victims. Our new orders are simple, Admiral Collins said. No more rescue missions. No more peace conferences. No more measured responses. The Coalition has declared their intention to commit genocide against humanity. We will respond in kind. Atik felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that they would finally be allowed to fight back properly. Dread at what that fighting would look like when humanity stopped holding back. Prepare your fleets, ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Collins concluded. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness. Class dismissed. As the officers filed out of the briefing room, Jake remained in his seat, staring at the star map. Somewhere out there, Coalition fleets were preparing to attack Earth's core worlds. They thought they were hunting weak prey. They were about to discover that they had been hunting sleeping predators instead. Captain Danny Foster was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming throughout the UES Liberty. The sound meant only one thing. Somewhere in human space, people were dying and needed help immediately. Captain to the bridge, came the urgent voice through the communication system. "We have a code red distress call from Haven Colony." Danny ran through the ship's corridors, still holding his coffee cup. Haven Colony was a farming world, home to mostly families who grew food for the other human settlements. It had no military base, no weapons, farms and schools in small towns where people lived peaceful lives. When he reached the bridge, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was already at her station, her fingers flying over the controls as she tried to get more information from Haven. "What do we have, Lieutenant?" Danny asked as he sat down in the captain's chair. "Multiple Krex battlecruisers attacking the main settlements," Amy reported. "At least 6 ships, maybe more. They're not just hitting military targets, Captain. They're bombing schools and hospitals." Danny felt his stomach drop. "Schools? Are you sure?" "Positive, sir. Distress signals are coming from the elementary school in New Hartford and the regional hospital in Millerville. The Krex are targeting civilians on purpose." Danny gripped his coffee cup so hard he thought it might break. "How long until we reach Haven?" 47 minutes at maximum speed, came the reply from the navigation officer. "Make it 40, Danny." Ordered. "Push the engines past their safety limits if you have to." As the Liberty raced through space toward Haven Colony, more reports came in. The Krex weren't just attacking the planet. They were broadcasting their attack live across the galaxy. They wanted everyone to see what they were doing to human civilians. "Captain," Amy called out, "I'm picking up escape pod signals. Civilian transport ships trying to evacuate people from the surface." "How many?" 8 transports launched from the main spaceport. "They're trying to reach the outer system where they can jump to hyperspace and escape." Danny nodded. "Standard evacuation procedure. Get the civilians off the planet and away from the fighting." "Are the transports clear of the attack zone?" Amy's face went pale as she studied her instruments. "No, sir. Vel fighters are intercepting them. The transports don't have any weapons or shields. They're just cargo ships full of families." "It's time." "To Haven. 31 minutes." Danny stood up and began pacing the bridge. 31 minutes might as well be 31 hours when civilians were being hunted down like animals. But there was nothing he could do except push his ship harder and pray they would arrive in time to save someone. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "I'm losing contact with Transport 7. Their signal just disappeared." Then Transport 5 went silent. Then Transport 3. Danny watched the display screen as one by one, the escape ships carrying hundreds of families simply vanished from his instruments. Captain Amy's voice was barely a whisper now. "Transport 2 is the only one left. It's carrying 43 children from the New Hartford school. The others are all gone." Danny felt something break inside his chest. These weren't soldiers dying in battle. These were children who had been in their classrooms an hour ago, learning math and reading stories. Now they were alone in space, being hunted by alien fighters. "Can we reach them?" Amy worked frantically at her controls. "Maybe, if we change course slightly and use all our power for the engines, it might intercept Transport 2 before the Veil fighters get to them." The Liberty, turned away from Haven Colony and toward the last surviving transport ship. Danny knew this meant they wouldn't arrive in time to help the people still trapped on the planet's surface. But 43 children were better than no children at all. 20 minutes later, they found Transport 2 limping through space with one engine destroyed and life support failing. 3 Veil fighters were closing in for the kill when the Liberty arrived. "Open fire," Danny ordered. The Liberty's weapons, designed for exploration and light defense, managed to drive off 2 of the Veil fighters. The third one got through and fired its weapons at the transport ship. Just as the Liberty's rescue beams locked onto it, Amy managed to transport 38 children to safety. 5 had died when the Veil fighters' shots breached the transports. "Hull, Captain," one of his officers reported, "the Krex fleet is leaving Haven Colony." They're broadcasting a message to all human ships in the area. Put it on screen." The face of a Krex commander appeared, his reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. Behind him, Danny could see smoke rising from Haven Colony's burning cities. "It's humans," the Krex commander said in heavily accented English. "You have just witnessed the true power of the Hegemony Coalition. Your pathetic rescue attempts saved a handful of your weak offspring, but thousands more died because you were too cowardly to fight us properly. Okay? We broadcast this attack to show the galaxy what happens to species that refuse to kneel before superior races." The alien commander leaned closer to the camera. "Your planet Earth is next. We will kill every human child, every human adult, every human who draws breath. And there is nothing you can do to stop us, because you are a race of weaklings who know only how to run and hide." The transmission ended, leaving the Bridge of the Liberty in complete silence. Danny looked around at his crew. Amy had tears running down her face as she held a datapad showing the names of the 38 children they had saved and the 5 they had lost. The other officers stared at their instruments, trying to process what they had just heard. "Sir," Amy said, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through." Admiral Susan Clark's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was harder than Danny had ever seen it. "All fleet commanders," she began, "you are to return to Earth immediately. President Hayes is calling an emergency session of the United Nations Space Command. The footage from Haven Colony is being broadcast on every news network in human space." She paused, and Danny could see something dangerous in her eyes. The Hegemony Coalition has made their intentions clear. They plan to commit genocide against the human race. They have rejected every peace offer, ignored every attempt at diplomacy. And now they have declared their intention to murder our children. Another pause. "Ladies and gentlemen, the era of measured response is over. Earth's government has finally realized that we are not dealing with an enemy that can be reasoned with. We are dealing with an enemy that must be destroyed completely." Admiral Clark looked directly into the camera. "Protocol 7 has been activated across all human military commands. General Turner will brief you on the new rules of engagement when you reach Earth. But I will tell you this much: the Coalition wanted to see what humans are really like when we stop being polite. They wanted total war. They are about to get it." The transmission ended. Danny sat in his captain's chair, thinking about the 38 children in his ship's medical bay and the 5 whose names would be added to the ever-growing list of Coalition victims. He thought about the thousands of families who had died on Haven Colony and the 17 other worlds that had been attacked over the past 3 years. Captain Amy said, "Should I set course for Earth?" Danny nodded. "Maximum speed, Lieutenant. It's time to go home and get ready for a real war." As the Liberty jumped into hyperspace, heading for Earth and whatever orders awaited them there. Danny wondered if the Krex commander who had made that broadcast understood what he had just done. Coalition has spent 3 years testing human patience, probing human defenses, studying human responses to their attacks. They thought they had learned everything there was to know about how humans fought wars. They were about to discover how wrong they were. General Chris Turner stood in the secure bunker beneath Earth's military headquarters, watching as red lights blinked to life across the entire human galaxy. Each light represented a fleet, a base, or a ship receiving the same message at exactly the same moment. After 3 years of restraint, humanity was finally taking off its gloves. "Unleash protocol is now active across all commands," reported Colonel Mike Stevens from his console. "All fleet commanders are acknowledging receipt of new orders." "Good," Turner replied. "How long before our ships reach the first coalition?" "Targets. The advanced fleets will be in position within 18 hours. Commander Martinez's task force is already moving toward the Crossroads Nebula, where our intelligence says the Krex have a major staging area." Turner nodded. Kay Martinez was a good choice to lead the first real human attack. Kay had watched 17 colonies burn while following orders to prioritize rescue over revenge. Kay, now he would get his chance to show the galaxy what human warships could actually do when they stopped playing by diplomatic rules. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, but the ship felt completely different now. The same corridors, the same crew, but everything had changed in the past 24 hours since Protocol 7 went active. Weapons systems are fully online, Captain Lisa Brown reported. All safety restrictions have been removed. We're operating at 100% combat capability for the first time since the ship was built. Jake studied the tactical display in front of him. The Defender had always been advertised as an exploration vessel with light defensive weapons. That had been a lie designed to make Earth's enemies underestimate human military strength. The ship's true capabilities had been hidden behind diplomatic restrictions and rules of engagement that prioritized saving lives over winning battles. How many Krek ships are at the staging area? He asked. 12 battle cruisers and about 30 smaller vessels, Lisa replied. Intelligence says they're preparing for a major attack on the Terra Nova system. Not anymore, they're not, Jake said quietly. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez had been transferred to Jake's fleet after the disaster at Haven Colony. She now served as his tactical officer, and her job was to coordinate the kind of precision strikes that humans had never used before in this war. Commander, Amy said, all ships in the task force are reporting ready for combat. Kreks don't know we're coming. Their sensors are designed to detect the energy signatures of their own ships, not ours. This was another advantage that humans had kept secret. While the Coalition had been reverse engineering ancient alien technology, human scientists had been developing completely new approaches to space warfare. Human ships used different energy sources, different propulsion systems, and different weapons than anything the aliens had ever encountered. Take us out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, Jake ordered. I want to see what we're dealing with before we commit to the attack. The Defender and her escort ships dropped back into normal space near the Crossroads Nebula. Jake's tactical display immediately lit up with contacts as the ship's sensors began mapping the Krek's fleet. 12 battlecruisers confirmed, Amy reported. They're arranged in a defensive formation around what looks like a supply depot. Lots of smaller ships moving cargo and personnel. Jake studied the enemy formation. The Kreks had positioned their ships to protect against the kind of long-range K attacks that coalition forces typically used against each other. They were expecting their enemies to announce themselves with long-distance weapons fire and then close in for a traditional battle. They were not expecting human tactics. Signal the fleet, Jake ordered. Execute attack pattern Delta. All ships coordinate your targeting solutions. I want every Krex vessel destroyed simultaneously. The human ships spread out across the system, each one taking position to attack different parts of the enemy fleet. The Krex sensors never detected them because human stealth technology was based on principles that the aliens had never encountered. All ships report ready, Amy announced. Targeting solutions locked in, waiting for your command. Jake looked at the tactical display one more time. 12 Krex battlecruisers that had probably participated in the attacks on human colonies. Ships that had killed thousands of innocent people while Earth's government tried to negotiate peace with their commanders. The ships, he said into his communication system, opened fire. The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Krex fleet never had a chance to return fire or even understand what was happening to them. Human weapons, designed for maximum destruction rather than the capture and disable tactics that coalition forces used against each other, simply erased the enemy ships from existence. Scanning for survivors, Amy reported when the shooting stopped. Negative, came the reply from the fleet's sensor operator. Enemy vessels destroyed. No escape pods, no distress signals, no survivors. Jake stared at his tactical display, where 12 Krex battlecruisers had been floating just 5 minutes ago. There was now only empty space and scattered debris. The supply depot had been completely destroyed, along with every ship that had been docked there. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Krex home fleet. They're demanding to know what happened to their ships at Crossroads." "Nebula, let them demand," Jake replied. "They'll find out soon enough." 3 hours later, a Krex scout ship arrived at the Crossroads Nebula to investigate the loss of contact with their fleet. The scout ship's crew found nothing but wreckage and empty space. Their entire battle group had been destroyed so completely that there was no way to tell what had happened to them. The scout ship's frantic report reached Krex High Command within hours. The message was simple and terrifying. 12 battlecruisers and 30 support vessels had been completely destroyed by an unknown force. No survivors, no witnesses, no explanation. Similar reports began flooding in from across Coalition space. Human fleets were appearing without warning, destroying enemy forces with weapons that seemed impossibly powerful, and then disappearing again before reinforcements could arrive. On the Vel homeworld, the Swarm Queen received reports that 3 of her attack fleets had simply vanished. The ships had been there on long-range sensors, and then they had been gone. No distress calls, no battle reports, no indication of what had destroyed them. Dr. Karen White, now serving as intelligence coordinator for the human fleet, intercepted communications between Coalition commanders as panic spread through their ranks. "They're calling it the human ghost fleet," she reported to Admiral Collins during a secure transmission. "They think we have some kind of new technology that makes our ships invisible until the moment of attack." "Do they understand what's really happening?" Collins asked. "Not yet," Karen replied. "They still think they're fighting the same humans who spent 3 years responding to their attacks with rescue ships and peace negotiations. They don't realize that we've been holding back our real military capabilities the entire time." Collins smiled grimly. "How long before they figure it out?" "Based on their communications, I'd say they're starting to suspect that they've made a serious mistake. But they're still thinking in terms of the Coalition winning or losing. They don't understand yet that this isn't going to be a war with winners and losers." "What do you mean?" Karen looked directly at the camera. "Admiral, based on the tactical reports from our fleets, we're not just winning battles against the Coalition, we're completely destroying every force we encounter. If we keep fighting at this level, there won't be a Coalition left to surrender." Collins was quiet for a moment. "And the other alien species, the ones who haven't joined the Coalition, they're watching, sir. Every species in the galaxy is monitoring these battles and trying to understand what happened to change the balance of power so dramatically. Some of them are starting to send diplomatic messages to Earth." "What kind of messages?" "It's mostly variations on 'please don't destroy us too,'" Karen replied. "They're beginning to realize that the Coalition made a very serious error in judgment when they decided to test human military capabilities." Back on the bridge of the Defender, Jake Martinez reviewed the tactical reports from the first day of unleashed human warfare. 17 separate engagements across Coalition space. 17 complete victories with 0 human casualties and 0 enemy survivors. "Commander," Amy said, "we're receiving new target assignments from Earth Command. They want us to hit the main Krex supply depot at Gamma Centauri." Jake nodded. The Krex had used that depot to stage their attacks against human colonies for the past 2 years. "How many ships are defending it?" "Intelligence estimates 47 enemy vessels, including their newest heavy cruisers." "Signal the fleet," Jake ordered. "Set course for Gamma Centauri. Time to show the Coalition what happens when you mistake human restraint for human weakness." As the human ships jumped into hyperspace, the galaxy continued to reel from the shocking reports of Coalition fleets being destroyed without warning. For 3 years, the aliens had thought they were hunting weak prey. They were just beginning to understand that they had been poking sleeping dragons instead. Emperor Zorth of the Krex Empire sat in his war chamber, staring at reports that made no sense. The past 2 weeks, 37 coalition fleets had simply vanished. Not defeated in battle, not retreating to regroup, but completely destroyed with no survivors to explain what had happened. "Tell me again," he demanded from his war commander, "how many ships we have lost." 463 confirmed destroyed, the war commander replied nervously. "That includes 8 dreadnoughts, 25 heavy cruisers, and our entire reserve fleet at Proxima Station." "And how many human ships have we destroyed in return?" The war commander's silence was answer enough. "None." Emperor Zorth's voice rose. "We have lost nearly 500 ships and destroyed 0 human vessels. Your Majesty, we have not even seen the human ships that are attacking us. They appear from nowhere, destroy our forces completely, and vanish before our reinforcements arrive. Our scouts find only wreckage." Emperor Zorth had ruled the Krex Empire for 40 years and had conquered 12 different species. He had never encountered an enemy that could simply erase his fleets from existence. What about our allies? The Veil Swarm, the Hegemony Coalition. The Veil Queen reports similar losses. Your Majesty, Swarm has lost over 300 ships. The other coalition members are demanding emergency meetings. Some are considering withdrawal from the alliance. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Brown stood on the bridge of the UES Defender as her task force approached the Titan Reach, where the largest coalition fleet in galactic history had assembled. Admiral Susan Clark had arrived from Earth with a combined human fleet to face this final test. "Sensor report," Lisa called out. 2,047 enemy ships, reported the tactical officer. "Every type of vessel the coalition has ever built. They've gathered ships from across their entire territory." Lisa studied the tactical display. The coalition had learned from their defeats and changed their strategy. Instead of spreading their forces across multiple systems, they had concentrated everything into one massive fleet. They believed that sheer numbers would overcome whatever advantage humans possessed. "Admiral Clark is signaling all ships," the communications officer announced. "Human fleet to maintain formation. Attack begins in 15 minutes. Lisa looked around the bridge. Her crew had fought in dozens of battles over the past 2 weeks, watching enemy fleets disappear under human weapons fire. But this was different. 2,000 enemy ships represented nearly half of the coalition's total military strength. "Ma'am," the tactical officer said quietly, "we're outnumbered 5 to 1. Only 5 to 1, Lisa replied. "The coalition is getting better at math." 15 minutes later, Admiral Clark's voice came through the communication system to every human ship in the fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark. The coalition has gathered their largest fleet to make one final attempt to stop humanity's advance. They believe their numbers will save them. They are wrong. Today, we will show the galaxy that human technology and human tactics make their numbers meaningless. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega." The Battle of Titan Reach lasted 47 minutes. The coalition fleet, arranged in the strongest defensive formation their military minds could devise, crumbled under coordinated human attacks that came from directions they didn't know were possible. Human ships used weapons that bypassed coalition shields, tactics that turned the enemy's numbers against them, and coordination that seemed impossible for separate vessels to achieve. The massive coalition fleet broke apart in sections, entire battle groups disappearing in minutes. Emperor Zorth watched the battle through long-range sensors from his flagship, K, positioned safely behind the main fleet. K, he saw his most powerful dreadnoughts, ships that had conquered worlds and enslaved species, reduced to debris in seconds by human weapons that seemed to cut through their hulls like they were made of paper. "Your Majesty," his war commander said frantically, The humans are using some kind of coordinated attack system. It's like their entire fleet is controlled by a single mind. They're anticipating our maneuvers before we make them. This was closer to the truth than the war commander realized. General Chris Turner, coordinating the battle from Earth, had access to a quantum communication network that allowed him to direct human forces across the galaxy in real time, while coalition fleets relied on commanders making independent decisions. The human fleet moved like a single massive organism. Full retreat. Emperor Zorth ordered. Signal all ships to withdraw immediately, but it was too late. Human ships had positioned themselves to cut off escape routes, while the coalition commanders were still trying to understand what was happening to their formations. The retreat became a slaughter as fleeing coalition ships found themselves trapped by human vessels that seemed to be everywhere at once. Captain Danny Foster, commanding a squadron of human destroyers, watched coalition battlecruisers desperately trying to reach hyperspace jump points. His ships moved to intercept them with a precision that would have been impossible using coalition technology. Sir, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported from her new position as Squadron Tactical Coordinator. We have successfully cut off the enemy escape routes. No coalition ships will leave this system. Danny nodded. The coalition had made their choice when they decided to target human children. Now they would face the consequences of that choice when the Battle of Titan Reach ended. 2,047 coalition ships had been reduced to floating debris. The human fleet had suffered 12 ships with minor damage and 0 casualties. Dr. Karen White, monitoring coalition communications from her intelligence station, intercepted the final transmissions from the dying fleet. Coalition commanders, in their last moments, finally understood what they had done wrong. They thought we were weak because we chose peace, she reported to Admiral Clark. They spent 3 years studying our defensive responses and our rescue operations. They never saw our offensive capabilities because we never used them. And now, Clark asked. Now they realize that human technology is centuries ahead of anything in coalition space. Our weapons, our ships, our tactics, everything they thought they knew about human warfare was based on us deliberately holding back. Reports of the coalition's crushing defeat spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had remained neutral in the war began sending diplomatic messages to Earth. The message was always the same. Please don't attack us. Emperor Zorth, one of only a dozen coalition survivors from the Battle of Titan Reach, fled to his homeworld to find chaos. Coalition member species were withdrawing from the Alliance. Some were preparing to surrender to Earth before human fleets reached their territories. Your Majesty, his remaining advisor said, we have received a communication from the Terran government. President Hayes wishes to discuss terms. Terms? Zorth asked bitterly. What terms can there be? We have no fleets left to fight with. We have no allies left to call upon. The humans could destroy our homeworld tomorrow if they chose to. The advisor handed him a datapad with Earth's message. Zorth read it twice before he understood what it meant. They're offering to accept our surrender, he said in amazement. After everything we did to their colonies, after all the civilians we killed, they're still willing to let us live if we surrender unconditionally. Will you accept, Your Majesty? Sword looked out the window of his palace at the city below. Krek's civilians were going about their daily lives, unaware that their empire had just suffered the most complete military defeat in galactic history. Tomorrow, human ships could arrive and reduce every building to ash. Instead, they were offering mercy to an enemy that had shown them none. Prepare the surrender documents, he said quietly, and send a message to what's left of the coalition. Leadership, tell them that the war is over. We lost. Across the galaxy, the few remaining coalition commanders received similar surrender offers from Earth. The humans, having demonstrated their ability to destroy any enemy completely, were now offering to spare those enemies if they laid down their arms. For the first time since the war began, alien species across the galaxy began to understand something important about humanity. The same species that could wage total war with devastating efficiency was also capable of mercy toward defeated enemies. It was a combination that no other species in galactic history had ever demonstrated. The ability to be completely ruthless in battle and completely merciful in victory. The Coalition had wanted to see what humans were really like when they stopped being polite. They had discovered that humans were far more dangerous than they imagined, but also far more honorable than they deserved. Emperor Zorth stepped out of his small diplomatic ship onto the landing platform at Earth's United Nations headquarters. 6 months ago, he had commanded the largest military force in the galaxy and had laughed at human peace offers. Today, he carried a white flag of surrender and hoped that the humans would allow him to live. President Robert Hayes waited at the end of the platform, surrounded by human military officers and diplomats. Zorth recognized some of the faces from news broadcasts. Admiral Susan Clark, who had commanded the fleet that destroyed the Coalition at Titan Reach, and General Chris Turner, who had coordinated the campaign that dismantled Coalition military power across the galaxy. Emperor Zorth, President Hayes, said as the Krek's leader approached. "Welcome to Earth." Zorth had expected anger, hatred, demands for revenge. Instead, the human leader spoke with the same calm politeness that had characterized human diplomacy for 3 years. It was unsettling. "President Hayes," Zorth replied carefully, "I come to surrender the Krek's empire and what remains of the hegemony coalition to human authority." Kay said simply. "The question is, what happens next?" Admiral Peter Collins stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, now flagship of the Terran Defense Fleet, watching coalition worlds transition to human administration. The war that had lasted 6 months had reshaped the galaxy completely. Species that had seemed unstoppable were now asking permission to conduct basic trade between their own worlds. Admiral Captain Lisa Brown reported, "We have confirmation that the last Coalition holdouts on Rigel 7 have surrendered. That makes it official. No organized military resistance remains in former Coalition space." Collins nodded. The transformation had been remarkably swift once human forces began their real offensive. Coalition fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for decades disappeared in weeks. Their mighty empires crumbled as member species scrambled to surrender before human fleets reached their territories. "Any word from the non-coalition species?" "They're all requesting formal diplomatic relations with Earth," Lisa replied. "The Altarian Republic wants to establish a trade agreement. Centauri Federation is offering military cooperation. Even the isolationist Vegan Confederacy has sent ambassadors." Collins wasn't surprised. Every species in the galaxy had watched the Coalition's complete destruction and drawn the obvious conclusion. Humans were now the dominant military power. Staying on their good side was essential for survival. Dr. Karen White sat in her new office at the Galactic Relations Department, reading reports from across human space. Her job had changed from analyzing enemy communications to helping establish a new order that was emerging from the Coalition's defeat. "The psychological impact has been extraordinary," she wrote in her daily report to President Hayes. Months ago, most galactic species viewed humans as weak pacifists who could be attacked without consequence. Today, they see us as the most dangerous military force in known space. The rapid transformation has left many species struggling to understand what happened. The answer was simple, though most aliens still couldn't grasp it. Humans were the only known species that could choose restraint while possessing overwhelming, destructive capability. The Coalition had mistaken that choice for inability. And the mistake had cost them everything. Commander Jake Martinez walked through the ruins of what had once been the Coalition's main military academy on the Krek's homeworld. Human engineers were already working to convert the facility into a school for teaching human history and galactic law to former Coalition officers. It's hard to believe this is the same place where they trained the commanders who attacked our colonies, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez said as she joined him. Jake nodded. 6 months ago, cadets here were learning how to target human civilian populations. Now their instructors are learning about human concepts of military honor and the protection of non-combatants. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The species that had spent 3 years teaching the galaxy that might makes right were now learning about justice and mercy from the humans they had tried to exterminate. Commander, Amy continued, we've received the final casualty reports from the war. Human military losses: 47 killed in action, 112 wounded. Coalition losses estimated at 4.7 million military personnel. Jake was quiet for a moment. The numbers told the story of what happened when a species that had perfected the art of war was finally forced to use that knowledge. Human losses had been almost negligible, while Coalition forces had been destroyed so thoroughly that most species were still trying to understand how it had been possible. Back on Earth, President Hayes addressed the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from every known species sat in the Great Hall, listening as the leader of humanity explained the new reality. For 3 years, Hayes began, humanity offered peace to the Hegemony Coalition. We proposed trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and cooperative exploration of the galaxy. These offers were rejected, and our colonies were attacked instead. He paused, looking around the hall at faces representing dozens of alien species. The Coalition made the mistake of believing that our desire for peace meant we were incapable of war. They thought our diplomacy was weakness and our mercy was fear. They learned otherwise. Murmurs ran through the assembled representatives. Every species present had watched human fleets systematically dismantle Coalition military power with an efficiency that seemed almost supernatural. Today, we establish a new galactic order, Hayes continued. One based not on the right of the strong to prey upon the weak, but on the responsibility of the strong to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Emperor Zorith, now wearing the simple clothes of a war criminal awaiting trial, listened from the observers section. He had expected execution or slavery after surrender. Instead, he found himself part of a process where former enemies were being given a chance to earn redemption through peaceful cooperation. The Terran Federation will guarantee the security of all worlds that renounce aggressive warfare and accept the principles of the Galactic Peace Accords, Hayes announced. Those who choose peace will find humanity to be generous allies. Those who choose war will discover what the Coalition learned too late. The message was clear without being threatening. Humanity had demonstrated its capacity for total warfare, but preferred to use that capacity to enforce peace rather than conquer territory. Captain Danny Foster stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the orbital facility. 6 months ago, this had been a purely human installation. Today, it served as the diplomatic hub for half the galaxy. Strange how quickly things change, he said to his crew. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, now promoted to commander after her service during the war, joined him at the window. Do you think it will last? This peace we've created? Danny considered the question. The Coalition species won't try anything for at least a generation. They've seen what happens when humans stop being polite. The other species seem genuinely interested in cooperation rather than conquest. And if someone new shows up, another aggressive alliance that thinks they can challenge human authority. Danny smiled grimly. Then they'll learn the same lesson. The Coalition learned Earth's courtesy ended when they started killing our children. We're still willing to be diplomatic, but now everyone knows what lies beneath that diplomacy. The galaxy had entered a new age. An age where the most powerful military force in known space used that power to maintain peace rather than conquer enemies. Species that had spent millennia warring against each other were learning to cooperate under human guidance. The Hegemony Coalition had wanted to see what humans were really like when they stopped being polite. They had discovered that humans were far more dangerous than any species in galactic history, but also far more principled. Humanity had kept its word. They had shown the galaxy what they were really like. The lesson had been taught with devastating efficiency, and the galaxy would not forget it. Commander Jake Martinez returned to his ship, ready to patrol the peaceful galaxy that human strength had created. The EU's Defenders mission had changed from fighting wars to preventing them. It was a mission that suited humanity perfectly, using overwhelming power to ensure that power would never need to be used again. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace everyone understood could end very quickly if anyone forgot the lesson of the Coalition's defeat.